I mean, you have had this extraordinary life for someone so young, really. And if we can take you back, it's 1983.
That's right, yeah.
October 12th, to be precise.
Yeah.
And here you arrive, hospital in Hampshire, to Mum Diane and David. What are your memories of childhood and home life and your parents and your sibling?
I had a great childhood. So I grew up in a small village, quite rural life, before technology. I did all my homework on a typewriter or with a fountain pen. I was always outdoors on bikes, roller skates. I was actually a tomboy. I had a dreadful haircut. I had like a bowl haircut.
I think we all have.
We all went through that.
But my dad was the local barber in the village.
Oh,
So there's no excuse.
Bloke's haircut, yeah. So you either had your hair cut by my dad or my mum was the local school teacher, so you had detention from my mum. So, yeah. So I was popular in the playground. But, yeah, I was the middle child, older brother, younger sister. And it was just, I suppose, in a way, like childhood should be. It was innocent. I never had any real pain or trauma at all growing up. And my mum and dad were really invested in all three of us. And my mum actually gave up her career to raise us all. And they really installed in us quite early on that anything you want in life, you've got to go out there, make it happen for yourself, you've got to work hard. They weren't about big ambition, but they were just about independence and making your way in life.
And what about then when you became a teenager?
I was quite a disappointing teenager.
Did you go through the wild stage?
I think because I grew up in such a small town, I really seeked, I wanted city life. I wanted, I was a bit like Belle in Beauty and the Beast, thinking there must be more to this provincial town. And I rebelled, I was the smoker, the drinker. I used to jump out the window to go out at night. I pierced my own nose, my own ears, just carried on the home haircuts myself. I used to dye my hair with food colouring because I couldn't access hair dye. And, yeah, you name it, I did it.
Now, what about jobs? What did you start out?
Well,
Where did you start working?
I didn't go to uni, so I left school and I went to a tech college and I did a hair and beauty course because I thought, Dad's a hairdresser, I'll do that. I wasn't really academic and it wasn't because I wasn't bright, it was just because I wasn't interested. You know? I was more interested in going out with my friends, boyfriends, that kind of stuff. So I got a job in Tesco. That was our only supermarket in the whole of the town at the time. And I worked there evenings and weekends around college because I had to fund my train fare, my college kit, that kind of stuff.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it, yeah. Started off as a checkout chick. Then I got promoted to backstage, not backstage. Backstage.
But you were always dreaming at that point, Kitty.
Back of the shop doing the tannoy when all the potatoes.
Oh, my God. I am so jealous.
Oh,
that is the one, every time I go in a supermarket, I want to be on the tannoy.
That's where I found my posh boys. And then I got another promotion.
Oh, do me an announcement.
Go on, Kitty.
This is, in aisle 1, Maris Piper potatoes are now reduced. I repeat, Maris Piper potatoes are now reduced.
Love it.
And then
I would buy those potatoes, Kitty, if I'd heard
moved
that.
on to the tobacco counter, selling the scratch cards. And, yeah, I mean, for me, I actually loved it because you could get double pay on bank holidays. I did all my college holidays. I'd work there as much as I could. And I sort of understood the value of money and working hard and seeing what you could get out of that.
So, again, a happy chapter, actually, wasn't it? It was... And it kept you at home at that point, too, so I'm guessing your parents were very happy with you having the sort of the normal job.
My parents were pleased that I was in college but working as well. And even now, when I go back to my hometown, I still see the people I used to work with in the supermarket and speak to them and stuff. So, yeah, it's nice to have had that foundation.
But were you ambitious?
Yes, I think I was ambitious. I think a side of me always wanted to look after myself and be independent. I think I was a thrill seeker as well, so ambition mixed with excitement as well, which was probably quite a dangerous combination, yeah.
But that was probably what made you sort of push yourself for bigger and better things, and you did always feel that London was calling a little bit for you.
Yeah, I worked in a sort of spa, like a private health club as a beautician, and it was mainly doing massage and manicures, pedicures. I used to massage Dr. Hillary, he was one of my clients.
Really?
Yeah, we're from the same area.
Oh, that's
He'll
awkward
love me
now,
saying
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah. I was his go-to for a full body. But I did that for a couple of years, but it was very limited for me in that you could only earn, your 8 hours of pay and that was it. There was no progression. I set up my own business doing clients mobile in their own home. And then I went back to college in the evenings to teach the theory side, like the anatomy and physiology of beauty therapy. But I was only sort of 19, 20, so I was too young to be a teacher in a tech college because the students were going to be older than me. So then I moved to London to seek out a different life. I looked for beauty jobs, and at that time I moved into a shared house, and all my housemates, we'd rent the bedroom in a 5-bedroom house, all my housemates were aspiring actresses, models, dancers, in theatre, promo girls, and that was the road I took.
But that wasn't something you'd really thought about at that point at all then? Was it just kind of being with those people and feeling the excitement that they were living? It sort of thought, actually, that's a bit of me.
I think at that age, I think I was probably 20, 21, I think it felt exciting.
Yeah.
Who knew where it may or may not take me? It was more money than what I was doing at that time.
So what did you start doing?
Well, I've done everything. I've given out samples of shower gel in shopping centres. I've worked on shopping telly, selling solar-panelled lights. I've worked on quiz shows till 4 o'clock in the morning, unscrambling the anagrams. I've been in furniture catalogues and adverts. And, yeah, that was me there, the solar-panelled lights, yeah. I mean, you name it, I did it, yeah. And it was just talking absolute rubbish for hours. But I think at that young age, I felt like, well, I'm pursuing my dreams, it's exciting. And there was a lot of partying around it as well, you know. A lot of rejection as well around various auditions and things. But...
And when you say partying, we're talking a lot of partying. You enjoyed being in the big smoke.
So me and my housemates, we lived sort of more or less sort of central-ish London. And Monday to Thursdays, we'd go out clubbing in the West End, and we'd leave Friday to Sunday to the tourists. And that was the days we'd go to the laundrette, go to the Chinese takeaway, go online and apply for 100 jobs at once to get rejected by 99 of them.
So how many nights a week did you go out?
Monday to Thursday, yeah.
Really? Every week?
Yeah.
Wow.
Socialising, sometimes clubbing, sometimes drinking, eating, whatever. I've always been a real people person, and I've always wanted to grab life and live it and loved glamorous things, so, yeah.
But at the age of 24, there was this day that did change everything, and indeed the days and the weeks after that, more importantly. Your memories of that time just must be so clouded with various emotions, I guess, even at this point, Katie, having come so far.
Yeah, it's funny because when I look back on it and reflect, it does feel like two separate lives. And, you know, I'm 38, but I sort of feel sometimes in my sort of 70s or 80s because what's happened to me condensed in such a short period doesn't happen to some people in a whole lifetime. So in some ways, you can take that as a positive. You know, life experiences enrich us, they build our character, and we can go on to use that in the future when we need to. But in other ways, it was a lot. It took its toll on me mentally and physically, and obviously some of the physical changes are still sort of ongoing in my medical journey. But I suppose, you know, talking about my childhood before, I think everyone when they're young has that thing at school where you draw what you want to be when you grow up or what you think life looks like, and it might be a house with a white fence and a dog and a cat or whatever, but nobody draws that and nobody prepares for that. So it was like my life was turned upside down in a matter of seconds. So, and I think lots of different things happen to people, and what's happened to me is obviously more visual, but I think we all experience trauma in varying degrees, and I do think trauma's a fact of life, but it needn't be a life sentence.
So the next period of your life started with life-changing surgery, groundbreaking surgery, and then at the age of 24, you're back at home with your mum.
Yeah, and it wasn't like going back home when you've run out of cash or you split up with your partner. It was like regressing and learning to swallow, difficulties of breathing, like all your independence and dignity as well, sort of taken away. I mean, I was really lucky that they were my carers, but I wasn't your average 20-year-old. I moved out at like 17. I was so independent, so it was hard, but at the same time fortunate enough to have that stable place to go back to.
And adjusting to life, I suppose, from your parents' perspective as well. You know, you're their baby, and then suddenly they've taken on this carer role and dealing with something that was just so awful for them to have to see you go through.
Yeah, I think also it was quite complex because I suppose when people think of burns, you think of sort of military heroes or burns in the kitchen or with fireworks, and I don't think any of us understood the extent of how it affects so many functions and so many other internal medical problems that we all had to sort of educate ourselves on. And it being so complicated that it wasn't an accident what happened to me. So there was a long legal trial, several different charges that the whole family it affected, my siblings, my parents. You know.
How did people react to what had happened and then your surgery and your face?
Well, it's interesting because how people reacted was my motivation to do the documentary that we saw that clip from, because initially I looked very different to how I sit here today. You know, I wore a plastic face mask for 2 years, I had a shaved head, very sort of purple-red appearance. So people reacted by asking me to leave shops, people shouting at me in the street. But, you know, I wasn't famous, I wasn't known, people didn't understand why I wore a mask. So the documentary was a mixture of things. I wanted to explain why I looked this way. I wanted to educate people. I wanted to relieve myself of that isolation and explain I'm not contagious. I'm not got something that means I need to be rejected from society. And I think anyone that's been through a legal trial, particularly like mine, where there was a rape charge, that whole trial is built on telling you that you're lying and what happened to you didn't happen. So I think taking back that empowerment and having that voice became very important to me.
Is that kind of what spurred you on then to...
yeah.
Because you must have had very, very low moments wondering whether you could ever get over this and ever go out again and ever face the world again. What was the pivotal moment where you thought, I'm going to and I have to?
I believe that in life there are some things that are out of our control, but we're always the captain of our own ship. And, you know, and your life is ultimately in your hands. And I just think I knew I'd fighted so hard to live in ICU. What was the point if I wasn't going to go out there and grab it with both hands? Yes, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea anymore. Yes, life's going to be slightly different.
But did you have a faith? I mean, what was it that gave you the strength?
I didn't have a faith before, and I don't come from a religious family, but I found a faith. And I had a turning moment in intensive care, and I realised that some things happen to certain people because they can deal with it, and I identify with that, and that you can go on and help others who can't. I had brilliant treatment. I knew there was a better way, and I knew as somebody with a facial disfigurement, you could still feel sexy, assertive, you know, all those things that we don't label somebody with a visible difference as. And I felt very, very strongly about that. And I just thought, this is my life, and who is anyone to take it away from me? I'm just going to get on with it the best I can. And I didn't know the answers. I just knew I had to make the best of this, whatever that is. And it didn't always turn out well. It was hard sometimes. Which is why your documentary was so groundbreaking at the time. Katie, was back in 2009. There was also a big interview that you did on This Morning, which I think was another sort of audience for you almost to get your story across there. And that definitely resonated with a huge number of people. Just remind ourselves of that moment sitting with Phil and Holly.
I think doing the documentary was really a massive help psychologically, because it gave me confidence and pushed me that little bit further than I might have naturally progressed.
If this had happened a couple of years before, the facilities and the medical procedures that were available to you would not have been available. It would have been a very different story.
That's right, a very different outcome, and I don't know if I would be able to be as strong as I have been now. So I'm very fortunate to have had the treatment that I've had.
It's just incredible moments looking back. It must still, because you've come so far even since then, obviously, Katie, but to have had the strength to sit there and do that interview at that point, as you said, there must have been moments you never thought you could have done that. And that was a massive step forward, wasn't it?
I think it was good for me to put myself out there like that. Like, you know, I wasn't wearing makeup. I think I'd been wearing the mask then, but took it off for the interview because it kind of affected my speech. And I think it was good for me to just say, this is me. And it didn't mean that I felt confident, but it sort of preempted that. So when I walked into rooms or went places, I felt like I'd already put out who I was, my authentic self.
But then you felt you were on a mission to help other people as well. That's the part of your story I find the most moving, that not only had you overcome so much, but going forward, you saw a way to help other people.
Yeah, and I think that was connected to a faith of what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? Like, what a privilege to find your purpose at 24. Some people don't find their purpose in their 50s or 60s. Some people only find their purpose when they're at the end of their life making a bucket list and it's too late. So for me, I'd had this great experience with my treatment and, like I said, felt a different way to others, and I wanted to give that to other people. And I had this weird opportunity where Simon Cowell got in touch with me after the documentary, and he offered me a job as a runner at his production company. And the old Katie would have grabbed that, you know, a chance to get into telly with one of the most famous people. But I knew that actually it's not going to be fulfilling. Like, there'd been so much that had happened. So I talked to him and said, I don't want to do that, but I want to do this. And I said to him, I want to sponsor other people to get this treatment. I want to set up a community. I want to change things to burn survivors. And he got behind me, and he still is to this day.
And the difference that you've made in so many lives at this point, Katie, it is remarkable, because it can be such an isolating, awful time for people going through what you've been through. You just feel like I'm the only person, and actually you're not. And there is help, and you gain a great deal of comfort from that as well.
Yeah, it became my passion, and I think selfishly it helped me make sense of everything. And when I wasn't coping, it sort of gave me a reason not to give up. And, you know, for me, I was able to meet other people, like-minded people, and I became fascinated with the medical side, the research, and it was a welcome distraction.
Well, a lot of people hugely grateful for all the work that you've done, and this is one of them.
Hi Katie, this is just a message to say thank you on behalf of me and also all the other burn survivors that your charity, the Katie Piper Foundation, has helped. You, in a moment of darkness, were able to turn it into light by creating the Katie Piper Foundation. And without the charity, I personally would not be mentally and physically thriving like I am today.
Thank you there.
That's Katrin. She's one of the strongest women I've met. She was badly burnt in a coach crash, and I mentored her, and the charity supported her. And actually, we now employ her. She went to uni to train as a physio, and she now works at our rehab centre as a physiotherapist to our patients. So, yeah, she's actually a really incredible person. So,
it's fantastic. Yeah. And Katie, you are, of course, now an OBE, which we love. And you know, the day that we talked to you live that day on the show, when you picked your OBE up and your mum and your family were there, and I have to say, I felt so happy for you that day, Katie, for all of your family. It just felt like one of those moments where that's deserved.
Yeah,
and that's what it all comes down to. Katie, you're remarkable. We know you love you. Your story is remarkable. And yeah, Katie Piper, that's one of the best ones we've done. I think we love it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing that.